A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Random House Audio presents Star Wars, Specter of the Past by Timothy Zahn. Read for you by Marc Thompson. Chapter 1. Slowly, silently, its lights a faint glitter of life amid the darkness, the Imperial Star Destroyer Chimera glided through space. Empty space. Oppressively dark space. Long, lonely light years from the nearest of the tiny islands that were the star systems of the galaxy, drifting at the edge of the boundary between the outer rim worlds and the vast regions of territory known as unknown space, at the very edge of the Empire. Or rather, at the edge of the pitiful scraps of what had once been the Empire. Standing beside one of the Chimera's side viewports, Admiral Pellaeon, Supreme Commander of the Imperial fleet, gazed out at the emptiness, the weight of all too many years pressing heavily across his shoulders. Too many years. Too many battles, too many defeats. Perhaps the Chimera's bridge crew was feeling the weight too. Certainly the sounds of activity going on behind him seemed more muted than usual today. But perhaps it was merely the effect of being out here, so far from anywhere at all. No, of course, that had to be it. The men of the Chimera were the finest the fleet had to offer. They were Imperial officers and crewers, and Imperials didn't give up. There was a tentative footstep at his side. "Admiral," Captain Ardif said quietly. "We're ready to begin, sir." For a moment, Pellaeon's mind flashed back 10 years, to another very similar moment. Then it had been Pellaeon and Grand Admiral Thrawn who'd been here on the Chimera's bridge. Watching the final test of the prototype cloaking shield Thrawn had recovered from among the Emperor's trophies inside Mount Tantus. Pellaeon could remember the excitement he'd felt then. Despite his misgivings about the insane Jedi clone, Jarua Sabayoth, as he watched Thrawn single-handedly breathing new life and vigor back into the Empire. But Mount Tantus was gone, destroyed by agents of the New Republic, and Sabayoth's own madness and treason, and Grand Admiral Thrawn was dead. And the Empire was dying. With an effort, Pellaeon shook the shadows of the past away. He was an Imperial officer, and Imperials didn't give up.
"Thank you,"
he said to Ardif.
"At your convenience, Captain."
"Yes, sir." Ardif half-turned, gestured to the fighter coordinator in the portside crew pit. "Signal the attack," he ordered. The officer acknowledged and gestured in turn to one of his crewers. Pellaeon turned his attention back to the viewport, just in time to see 8 Sorosub Preybird-class starfighters in tight formation roar in from behind them. Cutting tight to the Chimera's command superstructure, they passed over the forward ridgeline, raking it with low-power blaster fire, then split smoothly out in 8 different directions. Corkscrewing out and forward, they kept up their fire until they were out of the Star Destroyer's primary attack zone. Then, curving smoothly around, they swung around and regrouped. "Admiral," Ardif prompted.
"Let's give them one more pass, Captain,"
Pellaeon said.
"The more flight data the Predictor has to work with, the better it should function."
He caught the eye of one of the crew pit officers.
"Damage report?"
"Minor damage to the forward ridgeline, sir," the officer reported. "1 sensor array knocked out, leaving 5 turbolasers without ranging data."
"Acknowledged."
All theoretical damage, of course. calculated under the assumption that the Preybirds were using full-power capital ship turbolasers. Pelion had always loved war games when he was younger, had relished the chance to play with technique and tactics without the risks of true combat. Somewhere in all those years, the excitement had faded away.
"Helm, bring us around 20 degrees to starboard," he ordered. "Starboard turbolasers will lay down dispersion fire as they make their next pass."
The Preybirds were back in tight formation now, once again approaching their target. The Chimera's turbolasers opened up as they came, their low-level fire splattering across the Preybirds' overlapping deflector shields. For a few seconds, the opponents traded fire. Then, the Preybirds broke formation again, splitting apart like the fingertips of an opening hand. Twisting over and under the Chimera, they shot past, scrambling for the safety of distance.
"Damage report?"
Pelion called. 3 starboard turbolaser batteries knocked out, the officer called back. We've also lost 1 tractor beam projector and 2 ion cannon.
"Enemy damage?"
1 attacker appears to have lost its deflector shields, and 2 others are reading diminished turbolaser capability.
"Hardly counts as damage," Ardif murmured. "Of course, the situation here isn't exactly fair. Ships that small and maneuverable would never have the kind of shields or firepower we're crediting them with."
"If you want fairness, organize a shockball tournament,"
Pelion said acidly.
"Don't look for it in warfare."
Ardif's cheek twitched. "I'm sorry, sir." Pelion sighed. The finest the Imperial fleet had to offer.
"Stand by the cloaking shield, Captain,"
he ordered, watching the faint drive glows as the Preybirds regrouped again in the distance.
"Activate on my command."
"Yes, Admiral." There was a sudden flare of drive glow, partially eclipsed by the Preybirds themselves, as the enemy kicked into high acceleration.
"Here they come,"
Pelion said, watching as the single glowing dot rapidly resolved itself into 8 close formation ships.
"Lock predictor into fire control. Stand by cloaking shield."
"Predictor and cloaking shield standing by," Ardif confirmed. Pelion nodded, his full attention on the Preybirds. Nearly to the point where they'd broken formation last time.
"Cloaking shield, now!"
And with a brief flicker of bridge lighting, the stars and incoming Preybirds vanished as the cloaking shield plunged the Chimera into total darkness. "Cloaking shield activated and stabilized," Ardif said.
"Helm, come around port side, 30 degrees by 8.
Pelion ordered.
"Ahead acceleration point 1. Turbolasers, fire!"
"Acknowledged," an officer called. "Turbolasers all firing." Pelion took a step closer to the viewport and looked down along the Chimera's sides. The faint blasts of low-level fire were visible, lancing a short distance out from the Star Destroyer and then disappearing as they penetrated the spherical edge of the Star Destroyer's cloaking shield. Blinded by the very device that was now shielding it from its opponent's view, the Chimera was firing wildly in an attempt to destroy those opponents. Or perhaps not quite so wildly. If the predictor worked as well as its designers hoped, perhaps the Empire still had a chance in this war. It was a long time before the Chimera's turbolasers finally ceased fire. Far too long.
"Is that it?"
he asked Ardif. "Yes, sir," the other said. 500 shots as pre-programmed. Pelion nodded.
"Deactivate cloaking shield. Let's see how well we did."
There was another flicker from the lights, and the stars were back. Mentally crossing his fingers, Pelion peered out the viewport. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, from starboard, he spotted the approaching drive glows. 7 of them. "Signal from adversary commander, Admiral," the comm officer called. "Target 3 reports receiving a disabling hit and has gone dormant. All other targets have sustained only minimal damage. Requesting orders." Pelion grimaced. 1. Out of 8 targets, the Chimera had been able to hit exactly 1. And that great feat had required 500 shots to achieve. So that was that.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?